Hello everyone, this is Mrs. Reed and this is lesson 10.6, volume of a sphere. Our objective for today, I can calculate the volume of a sphere or a hemisphere. A sphere is 2/3 the volume of a cylinder with the same radius and the same height. So R is the radius, which we can see in our picture, those are the same. And H is the height. Let's make that a capital H. And which, if we look right here, the height is 2R. What is the volume for a cylinder? Well, we need to remember back that volume equals pi times a radius squared times the height, which if we look at the height for this picture, the height is actually 2 times the radius. So we'll just jot that down. So to get the volume of a sphere, we're going to do 2/3 times the volume of the cylinder, so pi, times the radius squared, times the height. But instead of writing H, I'm going to go ahead and write 2R. Maybe I'll do that in red then. Which that equals, if I go ahead and do 2 times 2, for this 2 times 2, we get 4. So 4/3 times pi times the radius, and if you look, we have 1, 2, and then 1 more, so that would be the radius cubed. And then this is the volume of a sphere. Put a big old box around that. This is the simplified version right here. Volume of a sphere. Next it says, what is the volume of a hemisphere? Well, it's important to note that a hemisphere is half the sphere. So it's just half of one. So if we took our equation we just got for the whole thing and we divided it by 2, we'd have 4 divided by 2 is 2, so we'll be left with 2/3. That's how it actually simplifies. So the volume equals 2/3 times pi times the radius cubed. And that is the volume of a hemisphere. Put a big old box around that. All right, let's go ahead and do some examples. Find the volume of a sphere with a radius of 5. So right here, the radius equals 5. And so we're going to go ahead and write out our equation. So volume equals, we got it right below us there, 4/3 times pi times the radius cubed. So the volume equals 4/3 times pi times 5 cubed. Okay, go ahead and type that in your calculator and see if you get the same thing that I do. I'm going to use some squiggly lines here like that, so that's about. The volume is about 523.6 centimeters, and volume is cubed. So hopefully you got the same thing that I did. All right, now find the volume of a hemisphere with a diameter of 12. All right, so if the diameter is 12, that means the radius is half of it, 6. So go ahead and try to find the volume of a hemisphere knowing that the radius is 6, and use your formula, please. All right, so we should have used our new formula, which is 2/3 times pi times the radius cubed. So 2/3 times pi times 6 to the third will give us the volume. And since pi is involved, I'll have to round, so that'll be about 452. It says 0.38, so I'd go ahead and round that to 4. And this is centimeters cubed, and that was for the hemisphere. Find the volume of plastic to the nearest cubic inch needed for this hollow toy compartment. It kind of looks like Buzz Lightyear's helmet, so if that helps you imagine this. The outer hemisphere has a diameter of 5 inches, so they wrote that for us, so very nice. And the inner hemisphere has a diameter of 4 inches, and they wrote that for us. So basically what we want to do is find the volume of this entire hemisphere. So we find the volume of the large hemisphere, then we're going to find the volume of the smaller hemisphere, and then we're just going to subtract them. All right, but to do this, we need to figure out what the radius is. So the radius for the large one, to go from here to here, right, that radius would just be half of 5, so 2.5. So the radius of the large, here, let's call it the large radius. I'm going to use a cursive L. Large radius equals 2.5. And then the small one goes from here to here. That would just be half of 4, so we'd have 2. So the small radius is 2. And then we're going to need the volume of a hemisphere formula. So the volume equals 2/3 times pi times the radius cubed. All right, so let's go ahead and find the volume of the large one first. So the volume of the large one equals 2/3 times pi times the radius. For the large radius, it's 2.5 cubed. And go ahead and type that in. So 32.7 inches cubed. Oh, here comes Pippin. Oh. Pippin is my very large, fluffy black cat, if you've seen pictures. He's now going to sit on my lap for the rest of this video, so maybe if you're lucky, you'll hear him purring. So that could be fun for you, maybe. All right, volume of the small one now. So volume of the small is 2/3 times pi times the small radius, which is 2 cubed. Go ahead and type that in. So about 16.8, that's what I got, inches cubed. And now our volume, to find what, just like that outer shell, like a Buzz Lightyear's helmet, if you think of that, the volume is going to equal the volume of the large hemisphere minus the volume of the small hemisphere. So go ahead and do that. We do. Volume equals 32.7 minus 16.8. And this is approximate. That would be 15.9 inches cubed. All right, and then that, believe it or not, we're already done. That concludes your lesson 10.6.